What's something that happened to you in your childhood that you're still mad about? I was in elementary school. My mom used to drop me off super early in the morning before school even started. So early that sometimes I would sit on the steps outside with the other early drop-off students, waiting for the janitor to open the doors. There would be 5 or 6 of us who would wait in the lunchroom for school to start, and I eventually came up with the idea of bringing my Uno cards for us to pass the time with. Our dull mornings of waiting eventually became something to look forward to, and it even felt like a small club. There was always this one lunch lady who just had it out for us though. She'd always complain about how we never pushed in our chairs and always left a mess. No matter how much we tried to keep the area neat and tidy, it was never good enough for her, and she eventually escalated it to the principal. One morning we were playing Uno and enjoying ourselves when the principal sternly and quietly marched over to us and started gathering up the cards. We all went quiet as she took everything, and I made an effort to help her pick up the cards in the hopes she would let me keep them with a warning or something. But instead, when she was done, she stuck out her hand and said nothing other than give them to me. So defeated, I handed them over. She turned around and walked away without saying anything else, and the lunch lady stood there with a smug grin, looking at all of us like it served us right. We were just a bunch of kids trying to work with the time we had instead of causing trouble, but I guess that didn't matter. I'm mad for you just reading that. When I was young, I was obsessed with paintball. I thought it was the best thing ever. I saved up money mowing lawns and helping neighbors with yard work for almost a year so that I could buy my own gun and equipment. My parents were divorced. I usually stayed with my mom, but occasionally would stay with my dad and stepmom. My mom, who has always been adventurous, decided to take a vacation for most of the summer, hiking, skiing, and staying with her sister out west. When I got to my dad's house, my stepmom was at the door. I was holding my stuff in my arms, which included my brand new paintball gear that I got for myself. I don't want that in this house. It's violent and I don't like it. I don't want it here. Unfortunately, my dad wasn't there at the moment. Otherwise, I think he would have said something to her. So I sulked back to my mum's car, put all the paintball gear in it, and watched her drive away. The only thing I wanted to do over the summer was play paintball with my friends. I busted my ass all year to buy my own stuff, and now it was just going to sit unused in my room while my friends were out having fun. What made it even worse is that I wasn't allowed to play paintball at all. Originally I thought, hell to it, I'll just use the crappy rental gear. At least I get to play and hang out with my friends. Nope, stepmom refused to let me play and somehow convinced my dad to follow suit. Up until that point, I never really liked my stepmom, but we got along and I played nice. But this crap was war. She went from neutral to hostile threat. The tension between us that summer was palpable. We get along better now that I'm an adult and she's calmed down about her complete anti-violence stance on things. But that whole ordeal still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I was robbed of a fun summer that I feel like I earned. That sucks. That's on your dad too though. He let her ruin your summer. Did you at least get to play when your mom got back? Oh, for sure. My mom was fully supportive of my hobbies. I've posted about it before, but I wanted so badly to play the cello as a kid. It was the most beautiful instrument I knew of, and I would pretend all the time I was a cellist. I would even go to my neighbor's house and ask to play her violin, telling myself I was just getting the hang of stringed instruments. My parents never said no, just tried to convince me I didn't actually want to play. It wasn't graceful to sit down with your legs open and play something so big. I'd look ridiculous. It would be too heavy for me to carry. I'd be embarrassed from being the only person I knew to play it and would have trouble making friends if I was practicing all the time. I already took piano lessons. This never made sense to me. They actually were pushing me to consider learning a new instrument, so of course I thought I was doing that. I'd constantly daydream about it. One day my really wealthy aunt and uncle came to visit. They were always getting us incredibly generous gifts. I overheard my mother telling them in hushed tones about my obsession and was absolutely beside myself, thinking they might consider it for Christmas. Later, we were sitting down and talking, and my uncle brought up Yo-Yo Ma. I beamed and started rambling about how I loved listening to his CDs, and he immediately cut me off to point out that he was a man. And did I know why that was? Because stringed instruments are hard to play, especially for women. In fact, stringed instruments hurt your fingers. They make them have calluses that are hideous and unbecoming of a woman. They make women ugly. Did I know that? Had I ever heard how hideously ugly playing the cello makes women? He was so smug seeing my revulsion, and I could see my parents sharing a congratulatory look. The adults all moved on to talking about something else, but I ran away and cried. I wasn't upset, because the thought of being ugly put me off. I was disgusted, because they all clearly knew from the beginning they wouldn't let me, and resorted to roping in other people to lie to me to make me want to change my mind. It infuriated me that they wanted to convince me that I was the one who didn't want it and thought they had succeeded. I never brought it up again. At least it's never too late to learn. I hope someday you will be able to get your own cello. Thanks, I've got 2 kids of my own now, and financially we don't have room for me to pick it up, since they currently take priority. But it's always in the back of my mind. One day. My parents divorced when I was in like 2nd grade. My father has extremely messed up worldviews, so I avoided spending time with him as much as possible. I really wanted a normal father more than anything. My mom married another man about a year later, and he was just so wonderful to me, like the father I always wanted, who tucked me in at night and played games with me and hugged me and all that, and I even called him dad. My mom got pregnant a couple of years later, and I was really happy because I wanted a baby brother or sister so badly. I wrote these sappy as hell poems and short essays about how much fun having a sister would be and how I would love her forever. I recruited my mom and stepdad to help me pick out and set aside some of my toys and stuffed animals just for her. My mom goes into labor, my grandparents take me to their house for the night, and I'm just so happy my little sister is finally going to be here. Mom and stepdad comes back home with my new baby sister, and my grandparents take me back to my house. That very same day, he forgot I existed. I mean, he flat out stopped acknowledging my presence. I would get home from school and he wouldn't say hello to me anymore. Our lively dinners of the past were now quiet affairs while he cooed and took care of my sister. I realized as the days passed that he only had space in his life and heart now for my sister. He didn't trust me around her and would not allow me to go into her room to play with her and close the door. This was in a very tropical country, so we had air conditioners in each room and we closed doors to keep the cool air in. If I was watching TV and she threw a tantrum that she wanted to watch TV, he would just turn off my program without saying a word to me. This type of crap went on for years and years and years. I mean, it only ended after I moved to another country when I got married, and I think that's because he lost his job and all savings, and I bailed them out multiple times because regardless of him, I'm still very close to mom and my sister. He only apologized for this recently. I mean, like 3 weeks ago. He didn't even apologize to me. He just told mom he was sorry and she told me about it. He did the same thing to my mother, totally ignoring her after my sister was born and treating her like the housemaid, and my mom finally grew a spine, and I guess he realized the error of his ways because he's really trying to repair everything now. It's too late for me because I live in another country, but I hope mom finds some happiness with him at least, if she wants that. Anyway, being abandoned like that so suddenly when I was such a little girl was extremely painful and deeply messed up my sense of self-worth. I really thought for the longest time it was my fault, even though I was a really quiet, nerdy and boring kid who just wanted to read books and play board games sometimes. To this day, I struggle to believe I won't be replaced again, even though my husband is really wonderful and has given no indications of that. You can't be replaced because there is only one of you. Okay, I'm not sure if mad about is the right phrase, but it's something I think about a lot, and it's influenced how I see things. So one lunchtime a kid who was several years younger than me just came up to me and started trying to hit me. He was clearly angry, crying and swinging wildly. He was small for his age, I was big for mine. This did very little other than confuse me, so I move away from him but he follows me still trying to fight me. I legitimately had no idea what was going on. He's not listening to me or anyone else. So I turn around and punch him once squarely in the head. He immediately stops, drops the ground and is crying. Not a moment I'm proud of, but it achieved the desired result. I don't see any reason to stick around, so I walk off. Not running away from trouble, just well, that's over. But a teacher yells at me and I end up in trouble because I'm the older kid bullying a younger one, obviously. So now I'm talking to this teacher and he absolutely swears he saw me get this kid in a headlock and was repeatedly punching him. I say I wasn't. He asks, are you calling me a liar? What the hell am I supposed to say about that? This teacher was convinced of what he saw, and I know that what he saw didn't happen. Comparing the two versions of events wasn't even close. He wasn't lying, but he wasn't right. Now, every time I hear about eyewitness testimony I think of that incident and wonder if it might have been wrong. It doesn't seem as rock solid as you'd think. I interned for a police department. My buddy officer went to a detail involving two angry old ladies and a minor car accident. Lady number 1 says that lady number 2 is at fault, even though lady number 2 insists that it isn't her fault, but that lady number 1 is at fault. Officer goes to speak to a witness and he says, oh yeah, definitely lady number 2 is at fault. Meanwhile, a neighbor had a video of the whole thing sent to the officer later that night. In the video, lady number 1 is clearly at fault. So my officer goes back to the eyewitness and he says, well, maybe I didn't see it happen and I only saw the result. So the officer then had to erase the 3 pages of paperwork he made because he based his outcome on a witness's statement. TL. Doctor, never trust an eyewitness. I read a good book about how our mind can create false memories subconsciously and they are indistinguishable from real memories. It's pretty scary how something that you could be absolutely sure was real may in fact have never happened. Olga, the stepmother from hell. Out of 8 of us kids, someone always had to be on the bad list. That meant you weren't allowed to eat anything she cooked or bought except ramen. That meant you basically only ate ramen and school lunch if you could beg enough friends for quarters, which didn't happen often. So we stole lunches, got caught, and then she'd kick our asses for that too. Hell to her for putting my brother on ADHD medication when he didn't need it, then calling them freak pills, so I was too scared to ask for help for my actual ADHD. Hell to her for making my brother pack all his crap and get in the car because she wanted to put him up for adoption. I still don't know if that one was for real, but it sure as hell felt like it. He was on the bad list for 7 whole years, in a room with just a bed. He'd get in trouble for eating books and wasn't allowed to use the same dishes as everyone else because he was a nasty freak. She did the same to me eventually when I became depressed and stopped trying to stay on her good side. Hell to her for beating me after I swept the floor but forgot to scoop up the pile and stick it in the trash. Crap talking Muslims all the time and now she's dating one. Hell to her for getting me arrested. Hell to her for getting custody of my youngest brother and now she's doing the same crap to him. Yeah, I want my stepmother to go to hell. It's literally not a tenth of what she put us through. I'm just shaking and crying and can't type much more. I'm picking up my youngest brother, her son and my dad's this evening because my dad has to work even though it's his visitation and my bro doesn't want to spend the weekend there. She'd throw a fit and hunt us down if she knew he was under my care this weekend. Hell to her though, I went into Childcare specifically to save kids from people like her.